I don't believe I'll ever come across a person who's read Kengan Ashura and will actively say that they hate Lihito. They may not care about him as much in the story because he's not that good of a fighter compared to everyone else. But his personality is what carries him, in my opinion. The fact that he's the first person in the Kengan Association to be both a fighter and the president of his own company is no laughing matter. Like, think about it. There's only 4 fighters who I genuinely believe could run their own business and represent it. Sakabayashi with Super Japan Wrestling, Kuroki if he really felt like it, Julius, I feel like he could do some kind of like protein thing or something like that, and of course Muteba, who we know he'd be running the meanest dripped out clothing line, bro. Like, it would actually be cold. I would buy from Muteba's clothing line immediately. But what I'm trying to get across here is that Lihito is 1 in a million. He is the lovable idiot, but at the same time, he's not an idiot at all, okay? He's just the embodiment of goofy. Yup. Now, not only is he special in the sense of his grip strength and weird book smarts, but to tie it all together with the fact that he calls himself Lihito because he sees himself as a superhero. You can't help but love this man, bro. Like, there is no doubt in anyone's mind that Lihito was hard carried in all of his matches before Ohma. Razor's Edge is actually a really strong move. It's just the fact that Lihito is really dumb when it comes to fighting, and he's so unrefined in his fighting tactic, and the fact that he has no martial arts training, that's what's really holding him back. It's just himself. And he can train Razor's Edge to infinity and beyond, but as you see with Kuroki, that shit don't mean nothing. As you saw with Ohma, that shit didn't mean nothing. But after he lost to Ohma, and then after he lost to Kuroki, yes, he had to accept that he was a loser. He had to accept that he was weak. But, as the great Fregolion once said, it is one thing to be weak, it is something else to stay weak. And that's why he did something about it. Unlike some other bitch niggas who wanted to stay down, Lihito actually picked himself back up and then kept going. He's just dealt the worst hand of management when it came to the Kengan Annihilation tournament, but it's a good thing because it did help with his character development. It's like how in Sabaody, Luffy had to get absolutely cooked in order for him to level up and then get stronger, you know, after that time skip and training and such. That's kind of how I see Lihito when he makes it over to Omega. So that is exactly what our superhero, Ichiro Nakata, also known as Lihito, or as I call him, Lihito the Ripper. What is going on, y'all? Sync here. Today we're going to talk about the king of losers, the goofball of Kengan Ashura, the Superman, Lihito. Now, the initial glazing aside, Lihito is one of the most complex but straightforward characters at the same time. He's a lovable idiot, but this dude really did go to college, unlike most fighters. And before we bust open a cold one on this video, like really get down into the ground on this one, I'd just like to say, Lihito was the one that inspired me to start taking working out more seriously years ago when I originally started reading the series in 2019. And what I really did like about him was that each time he lost, he took something away from it and improved so that he can do better next time. And that shit is hella inspirational to me. And just like how he inspired me to work out, bettering myself, getting better at the lifts that I sucked at, you guys can also inspire me to help make more videos by dropping a like, subscribing if you're not, and commenting your thoughts and who you'd like to see next. So with that out of the way, let's go ahead and get started with this character design. So before Sanjo actually started working on the series, he had this idea of a fighter who had the power of shaving off flesh as his finisher, and that's how Lihito's Razor Edge was actually born. So during his actual physical design process, they wanted a more, and I quote unquote, carnivorous feel to it. And I don't fully understand why they had to use the word carnivorous. It seems pretty odd, but I kind of see what they're after here. It's a little weird too, because Kazi even said so himself they look like a carnivore. I don't get the full game plan they were after here, but you can see it somewhat in his face. But, you know, I kind of prefer the goofy looking one a lot more. The first design to me kind of looks like if Bakko was animated in Megalobox, which is not at all a slight to Megalobox, okay? I love Megalobox a lot. I'm just saying, that's literally what it looks like to me. Lihito is hilarious from start to finish. He was born with superhuman grip strength, but did not realize it until he broke a coin apart with his bare hands when he was 11. And he didn't train for this, by the way. It was just a God-given talent. So imagine you give your friend a $1 coin and jokingly say, I bet you can't break this coin in half, knowing full well no one can break a coin in half. Then not only does he prove you wrong, but you lose $1 and now you're concerned about what else he can do. I bet you the one that lost $1 is the one on the right in this picture. Now, considering that this is Lihito though, we don't have much to worry about Because, well, this is Lihito, the same guy that went to high school and ended up going to the wrong high school and didn't realize it until midway through the semester, where he actually went to a trash high school, but because he was so smart, he was supposed to go to a fancier one, he ended up becoming the first student from that trash high school to go to Taito University. Which, by the way, after doing a little bit of research, I learned that Taito University is not a real university in Japan. It's like the Acme Corporation in America, where it only exists in the premise of storytelling. So, thank you, random blog post from 2009. So, while he was repping Bakata High School, he was a rambunctious rapscallion getting into squabbles on the courtyard with the other high school gangs, especially Sawada's over at Kama High School. Which, by the way, the fact that Sawada never knew who Lihito really was before they actually started fighting shows just how dumb Lihito was. Because off rip, this man Sawada was making fun of his intelligence. I'd never, okay? My intelligence is the brightest of all mankind. Anyways, that's all there is for him with the background, but Lihito was never really a background character. He's all personality, so let's get into that. So as the leader of the goof troop known as the Four Stooges, Lihito is without a doubt the king of personality as dubbed by me. So I have a very strong fixation with underdogs. You know, people say that everyone loves a good underdog story, and that's entirely true for me. I eat that shit up like breakfast. But Lihito never winning a proper match from Kengan Ashura aside, my guy is big time winning outside the ring. Not as much as Nezu and Muteba, but he's up there, okay? He's out there. Of course, I'm referring to his taste in partners, which is entirely based off of looks, but more importantly, the reason I lump him in with Muteba and Nezu is because he is first introduced in the manga after raiding Ohma's house. They nerfed his game in the anime. My guy showed up in the manga, the initial meeting between the insurance company and the Nogi group. He had two beautiful women clamoring to him the whole time. Now, do we know who they are? No. Does it matter? No. All it shows is that Lihito is not just someone to go skirt chasing without actually securing the bag. Props to my guy. But going back to the underdog thing, after his loss to Kuroki, I got a better understanding of the relationship between him and Sawada. The enemy of my enemy is my enemy. That's what I'm going to go for. Okay, it's a sense of camaraderie at that point. So with the Four Stooges, though, him and Okubo seem to have the closest connection. I mean, they both end up having to face monsters during the first round and got knocked out, but I mean, it worked out in their favor. They both found a best friend with similar interests and the same number of brain cells. These two are by far one of my favorite duos in the series, and of course, they're still behind the interactions between Cao Lang and Sao Hang, but they're still top tier quality. I mean, look at this. They successfully done the following. They got arrested 3 times after drinking, bullied Himuro into getting them to go to mixers, got finessed by Reno during Christmas, got lost in the woods and survived by eating bears, went streaking and got arrested. They had a band. These experiences give us some good notes about Lihito's character. For example, he enjoys watching terrible movies, what we see when the gang starts watching Barnold 4. Which, by the way, the fact that Himuro actually enjoys Barnold 4 says some questionable things about him. Anyways, he's terrible at throwing surprise parties because he gave Himuro the literal invitation to his own surprise party. You had one job. All you had to do was take Himuro from point A to point B, and he somehow find a way to mess that up. Basically, he's very simple-minded and easily manipulated, as we see from Nogi. Well, we'll get to that later. Okay, one more thing. You thought you were going to get away, but not this time, all right? Lihito does make an appearance in Danbaru, but not in person, okay? He makes an appearance in picture when the girls visit Gina's uncle, who we learn is Ivan. And there's a picture of Lihito with Kamada and Ivan all inside the storage room as they're practicing, you know, leg raises or different ab exercises. You thought I wasn't going to make a Danbaru reference in this video? You are absolutely wrong. I will find a way to make one in every single video. Anyways, let's go ahead and talk about his fighting style. Now, Lihito doesn't actually have a fighting style in Ashura. It's just him using brute force mixed with trying to land a razor's edge whenever possible. And this move is actually a lot more powerful than people give it credit for. The fact that one swipe could potentially rip off a person's flesh is no laughing matter at all, okay? Even Kuroki got caught lacking by this. And I generally do believe that in some parallel fantasy world, this man Lihito slashed Kuroki so hard that it actually knocked him out in one swipe, thus allowing him to proceed further into the tournament, where he then proceeded to just one strike every single person in the Annihilation tournament and cementing him as a #1 fighter. But of course, that's just me literally living in the fantasy land. That is literally the embodiment of the Lihito Agenda that is completely non-existent nowadays. But we got to give him credit, okay? Because over the course of the series, he does get better. In Omega, he trained under Kuroki and he learned the basics of the Kaiwan style. I mean, it may not have been enough for him to beat Falcon at first, but it was leagues better than what anything the original Lihito would have done. Like, if you think about it, the original Lihito would have got absolutely bodied by Falcon, but the Lihito that we got in the beginning of Omega, we can see that he has progressed as a fighter, and he has definitely developed some kind of skill and tactic outside of just using Razor's Edge all willy-nilly. Now, in the Berserker Bowl after that, we see him actually click. Like, he gets almost one of the gears turning. You see that one little panel where the gears are turning in his head, where he finally breaks into his Ultra Instinct and he just absolutely dominates Saw Pang. I mean, I feel sorry for that, the fact it was Saw Pang who had to get embarrassed like this, but let's face it, okay? We were all rooting for him on that one. The moment that we actually got to see Lihito put in some work and start using the basics of Kaiwan effectively, that's when he popped off. That is the Lihito that we love seeing, and that's the Lihito that is going to stick in my memory going forward. So with that being said, let's go back to the other version of Lihito. So we got, every legend has, you know, the beginning portion. So let's go back to the Annihilation tournament. So before the Annihilation tournament, he represented Yoshitaki Real Estate, which I ain't gonna lie, every single person that represents this real estate company is absolute garbage, or rather they get dumpstered. That aside, after his loss to Ohma, he got fired, and then Nogi picked him up, gave him a job for about a month. Then Nogi actually gave him a shell company for food storage. He had Lihito run that company with Ivan and Kamada. Nogi told Lihito to use this in order to still participate in the Kengan matches. So this man is the first president fighter. So during the preliminary brawl, we see that he actually learned from his fight with Ohma, where he learned how to murk people up close with Razor's Edge. And after seeing that Katie was trapped inside as well, he flipped the script and knew that he had to help out Ohma while they were fighting. Most of the people he fought there were fodder until he ran into Sawada, and then they embraced each other lovingly. Before his first fight, he ran into Ryan. Now, Ryan actually called him lacking. Pants down, he literally got the clapping. But after Ryan applauded him on his, that's when things got a little interesting. And not in that way. You see, this is a very weird instance in the story. Now, I may be pushing the agenda heavily at this, but canonically speaking, Lihito is the only person in Kengan Ashura who survived Ryan at 100% removal and has minimal damages. Listen, I don't care if he was just playing around. I just think it's funny that that's actually a fact. So with that being said, let's go ahead and talk about the fights. This fight reminded me about one key thing when it comes to Kengan Ashura, and that's that these people are fighting for money. And not even just money. These are fighting to settle disputes between companies. So they're messing with big money out here. Lihito's match with Ohma was more than just a fight between two respective fighters. It's like DraftKings. Like, these niggas are out here fighting over a 100 billion yen building, bro. Basically, this match was a test for Ohma to prove himself to Nogi that he was an actual fighter. During their fight, Ohma was definitely cooking him though. He was putting him on the fish fillet skillet for the first half. Then Lihito hit him with the razor edge and he just said, whoa, wait a minute now. I didn't know he was out here. I know we were serious. Then that's when we get the whole lesson about how Lihito and why his name is actually Lihito. He calls himself Lihito because he is above human reasoning, which is the dumbest thing imaginable. It's very immature, and that's why I love him. Anyways, after Ohma understood how Razor's Edge worked, that Lihito needed that little bit of extra space in order for him to start slashing people's skin, he found the weakness, and it was pretty much GG for a boy after that. During this match with Kuroki, it was not a match at all right? It was more so not even an execution or an embarrassment in front of a live studio audience on Disney XD and Cartoon Network and Nickelodeon. This was Kuroki trying to teach Lihito a lesson, teaching him that, yeah man, you're weak. This man Lihito got hit with reality harder than me when I see a panel of Togo, and despite Lihito managing to damage Kuroki, Kuroki exposed every single one of his weaknesses. After getting relentlessly bullied by the beard, he woke up in a waiting room next to Okubo telling him, yeah bro, not gonna lie, that was one of the strongest people here you were up against. I'm not even gonna hold you to it. But yeah, low-key I go do the same shit myself, so I feel you, brother.
そうか。じゃあね、結果は結果だよな。やめだやめだ。終わったことを考えても仕方ねえや。おお、お前でも考えることがあるんやな。うるせえよ、クソ坊主。たく少しは怪我人をいたわれよな。おい、どこ行くんや。ナンパ。試合が終わったってのに、野郎と二人でくすぶってられっかよ。あとは任せろ。俺が必ず優勝してやる。お前の無念は俺が晴らしてやる。
とっくに気づいてんだろ。このトーナメントてめえごときが入り込む余地はねえってことによ。
消え失せろ弱者。
But just because he lost to Kuroki didn't necessarily mean that Lihito had given up fighting. It was actually quite the opposite. He wanted to take his fighting a lot more seriously and pick up martial arts. And who better to teach him than the very person who kicked his ass, Kuroki? So after he lost to him, he clung on to him like a student does a teacher, master, sensei. Did I say sensei already? Anyways, the point is that he didn't give up, okay? And he picked up and learned the Kaiwan style over the next 2 years, and we see this in Kengan Omega. So let's go ahead and see where the fruits of his labor had landed him during his fight with Mokichi. So during his fight with Mokichi, it was actually really refreshing to see Lihito fight in a more orthodox style. The fact that he actually started taking up the stances that were from the basics of Kaiwan was pretty nifty at first. Though when he did start fighting, it almost felt like, you know, someone's trying to swing a sword, and it's a really good sword, but you can tell that they're really new at it. And that's what Lihito looked like, that he was just following the motions during his training. And it wasn't until he actually started to use Razor's Edge that we realized that, oh wait, that's actually Lihito who's fighting. Because I ain't gonna lie, the tactics he was using, I was not ever used to Lihito fighting with that matter. I'm used to him always trying to spam Razor's Edge. So seeing him actually start fighting and start using strategies and techniques showed that he did grow as a fighter at this point, thus allowing him to beat Mokichi without actually having to damage Mokichi. I mean, he did kind of hurt him mentally when he hit on his sister before the match even started, which, by the way, you never want to do that to anyone, alright bro? But that's just Lihito being the cocky bastard that he is. We love him for that. So with that match sealed away, let's move on to the purgatory match between Lihito and the Falcon, or Albert. This fight was actually really flipping cool. He was clapping Lihito with all this misdirection play because, you know, the Falcon had the ninjutsu and everything. He had to give up trying to focus on using the techniques and just focused on the fight itself, which allowed him to start locking in and start using Razor's Edge, grabbing him in midair, slamming him to the ground. And just as he starts to gain that momentum, the Falcon used his jank ass ugly poison toe and just stabbed Lihito with his freaking toe. And he's thinking like, oh yeah, this guy's done. He's cooked, he's fried, he's stir fried. It's gonna be even better. It's gonna be delicious. Then Lihito got back up like it was nothing. This man got up, pulled out a demonic smile. I thought it was Kano for a second. And this panel right here, bro, this was a peak Omega panel, and I can't wait for it to get animated. Now here's the thing. One important detail to note between Lihito's match with the Falcon is that base Lihito would never have stood a chance at all in this fight. The fact that the Falcon won it with arguably an absurd amount of difficulty, you can't deny the progress. So as Lihito gained more experience, fighters that were just no longer on his level became insignificant to him. Mark Myers, it was a one-sided stomp. Like, Myers tried using brute force and just got absolutely bodied by a single Razor's Edge. Then later on in the Berserker Bowl, we got Saul Pang. Now, in Saul's defense, He just got off of a very intense fight with Cosmo. And meanwhile, Lihito was still pretty fresh after just one side stomping Myers. So Lihito was getting worked out in the beginning. He didn't really find a way to mesh his new techniques with the fighting style that is his own. So it took a while for the gears to start turning, but the moment they started turning, this man went full Ultra Instinct, bro. Like, his attacks became a lot more fluid. He started to pose as a genuine threat, and eventually gets Saul paying into a front choke, winning him the match. And this is despite the fact that Saul went for the Hammer of Burma. So I'm just saying, this man is leveling up. In fact, he leveled up so much, he even got a victory off screen. That's right, we don't actually see this fight, but we do hear from Sayaka and Waka when he's up against Koga. They both said that it was a one-sided clapping for Lihito. And if we take into account the fact that Waka doesn't really lie, I mean, he seems like a pretty upstanding chap, if I do say so myself, so I don't see any reason for Wakatsuki to lie, especially when it involves Lihito, because unless Waka is a secret Lihito fanboy, they haven't had any real interaction within the story. So yeah, this man Waka got no reason to gas up Lihito. So with this win, our underdog Lihito not only wins fights with named characters, but now he's the winner of the Berserker Bowl. Clap it up for my guy, bro. This man has come a long way. When he finally got that victory, I cried. In conclusion, you can't help but love Lihito, man. Like, if you look up every single person's favorite character in the series, I guarantee that Lihito will definitely be number 5th, if not higher on the list. And that's because deep down inside, we all have that little underdog story that we're trying to fulfill, you know, trying to better ourselves, be better than we were yesterday. And that's exactly what Lihito embodies throughout the series. We see him start off as like some schmuck who just has one ability that's okay for the most part, but he does work on it and he improves and we witness his growth. It's a beautiful thing when you think about it. And on top of that, he's just a generally cool dude to hang around with. Thank you so much for watching. I wish you all have a good day. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you for the next one. Y'all take care.
This just in, we have received word of report of several murders on judo practitioners. The suspect's name is Boy M.